Welcome to Alternate Ending, where we are celebrating 10 years of discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I am your host, Tim Brayton. I am joined tonight by an all-star cast of some of our beloved friends and neighbors here in the Alternate Ending community, starting with Brennan Klein, who you know is the host of Bride of Alternate Ending, an occasional written contributor to the site, host of our trivia nights, co-host of the regular podcast. Brennan, glad to have you. As I've mentioned recently, always a treat to get to talk to you when we're not talking about horror movies. So welcome. How are you doing right now, Brennan?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm doing great. And speaking of, we literally just got out of a recording of Bride of Alternate Ending 2 hours ago, talking about one of the most boring horror movies I've ever seen. So I'm very happy to be here.
Spoiler alert, we don't want to give away next week's episode just yet. But yes, if you want to hear Brennan and I struggling against God himself to come up with anything to say about the Skeleton Key, you'll have that privilege in a week's time.
Oh,
So, so thank you, Brennan. We are also joined by another one of our regular hosts, Mandy Albert, host of Your Movie Rocks, our monthly celebration of movies where we can only say nice things about them, which is something that would probably make my head explode like scanners, but Mandy has made it a wonderful, wonderful tradition over the last year. Mandy, welcome. How you doing tonight?
howdy, I'm doing well. I have spent the last 4 days in Boston remembering what it feels like to be cold. And now I am back in the land of reasonable temperatures for
Well, well,
humans to dwell
well,
within.
here in Wisconsin, we are having a balmy 29-degree day, and it feels like I could run out in shorts because it's so much warmer than
No,
it's
no, I
been.
get that.
So I get you. I get you. We also have joining us Brian Fowler. Brian, how you doing tonight?
Well, it's 10 degrees here in Michigan.
Ooh, I'm sorry to have
So
bragged about my 29.
apparently I hate you all. No,
And
I'm doing good.
excellent. And also not from the Midwest, so probably enjoying at least marginally warmer temperatures. We have Cameron Shaw joining from San Francisco. How are you doing, Cameron?
Good. It's 56 degrees here. I just checked and it's raining. So,
Okay. Well,
Ooh.
take that for what you will.
okay. I will accept that you're having at least marginally not good weather, and I will take that as a win for me. So anyway, we are here to talk about the 10-year anniversary of the Alternate Ending podcast. It's actually a little bit over 10 years. It started way, way back in the mists of time on January 3rd, 2016, when married couple Rob and Carrie Jarosinski decided that it would be fun to do a movie podcast, a lifelong passion of Rob's. And their very first episode was the top five movies ever made. That quickly turned into an ongoing series of top five lists that after a year happened to wrap in me. Rob approached me one day shortly after I arrived in Madison, Wisconsin, where Rob and Carrie lived, and basically said, Tim, you write a lot of movie reviews. We do a lot of movie podcasts. You know what we should do? We should have all of these on one site together. And I was like, well, that sounds like a neat plan. We should probably do that for sure. So I think initially the plan was just that I was going to write and they were going to do the podcast, but we kind of quickly fell into the idea it would be more people is more fun on the podcast. And that certainly became something that is even truer now than it ever was. But so they invited me to join the podcast. So I've been podcasting on Alternate Ending since January of 2017. So I'm only celebrating my 9-year anniversary. So we'll have to do this all again next year. But actually, I believe I joined here. I have the date 1/30/2017, so January 30th. I was involved in the best of 2016 episode, which seems like a very long time ago. But so for many, many years, Rob Carey and I ran this podcast, and then a terrible thing happened, which was the COVID-19 pandemic. Maybe you remember it, which
No, what
kind of
was that?
it was a very bad show. There's just worst vibes you ever did have. But so yeah, so COVID is when we switched over to an all remote recording, which kind of changed the dynamic a little bit, and we kind of shifted and altered and changed. And at a certain point, Rob decided he wasn't as happy with being part of the podcast when he couldn't do it live anymore. So he stepped back. He became a movie producer for a time there. So Carrie and I kept on the podcast. We were joined by none other than Brennan Klein, who kind of stepped in to fill that void, so we could continue having a nice blend of three voices as much as possible. And that's been where we've been for some years now. Of course, we've had some tragedy in the alternate ending family since then. A few years ago, 2 years ago now, Rob passed away very unexpectedly, very suddenly, shortly after the premiere of that first movie he produced. And it's obviously something that has affected me personally, has affected the site a great deal. But we've been, trying to keep on a show that Rob would have been proud of, that we can all be proud of. And that kind of culminated in the waning weeks of 2024 when Brennan and I kind of decided to introduce a new approach to doing the show that really became activated in 2025. So we're now celebrating the 1 year anniversary of that, which was when we started running the podcast the way it's being run now, where we have 2 episodes with a bunch of people talking about movie themes. We have 1 episode where Brennan and I talk about horror movies, The Bride of Alternate Ending, as we already talked about. And then, of course, that 1 episode where Mandy chats about various movies, good and bad. The worse, the better. They're obviously
no, they're all
that
good.
way. They're all good. Every movie is good.
Every movie is good.
But so that's been kind of the short version of the site's history, the podcast's history. I'm going to step back for a little while because I have lots of feelings all over the place with this strange thing that is the Alternate Ending podcast. But I wanted to hear your stories about how you heard about this podcast, how you started listening, how you joined the family. And I thought the place to start with that would be Brennan, since you have been my right hand and then some for a while now. I would certainly not be remotely capable of running this shebang without you helping out. So I just want to thank you publicly for being there for me in my time of need. But Brennan, tell us a little bit about how did you come into the alternate ending sphere?
Yeah, well, thank you. And yeah, well, that was very, very sweet of you. Thank you. I'm happy to be your right hand and maybe like forearm, like maybe down to the elbow. Um, but yeah, no, I started, I think the way a lot of people did, because I didn't know Robin Carey personally, before 2018 or whatever. I was a follower of Tim's reviews back in the Antagony and Ecstasy days before the blog merged with the alternate ending site. I was reading Tim's reviews since my very own Summer of Blood, which was summer 2011. It was the summer I fell in love with horror movies and started watching all of the big franchises and trying to read reviews. And I stumbled upon Tim's, and I never escaped from the bear trap that is Tim's slasher movie reviews. That inspired me to start my own blog. At some point, a couple years later, I saw my blog on Tim's blog roll on Antagony and Ecstasy, which was a thing that existed back in the day.
We had blog rolls. It was an exciting time in life.
Mm-hmm. But I reached out to Tim and I was like, "Oh my God, thank you. This is so cool." I didn't notice that had happened because my screen was zoomed in enough that I wasn't like seeing the blog roll, so I just happened upon it at some point. And I was really honored. And so, yeah, I followed that whole transition, like to alternate ending. I was there for the best of 2016 episode and beyond. And then I caught up on the Robin Carey episodes that they had made for the year or so before that. But yeah, but there was a certain point where Rob was looking to maybe curate a staff of writers for alternate ending. He had reached out, or he would, I don't know. I think he just wanted people to write about the movies that Tim didn't give a shit about, like all of this, all of the streaming crap,
all the normal stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was Tim who reached out to me, and I felt like I had been touched by God. Like I was David in the, or is it Adam or David? David on the Sistine Chapel.
It's
Adam, of course. That makes a lot of sense if you think about it. But anyway,
your hip was dislocated. Then you're Jacob.
I don't know what that means.
Never mind. Not worth it.
I have not been inside a Christian church in a good long time. But anyway, so yeah, I started as a writer. I was writing all about that Netflix rom-com crap and Tall Girl and the after movies. It was a great time for me. I kind of fell off with writing the reviews when I got an actual job where I had to write all the time every day, and I was just like, okay, I need to take a break. But yeah, then they started folding me into the podcast, like Tim said, started Bride of Alternate Ending. I was on a short-lived television spin-off with Robin Carey called A Worthy Binge. where we talked about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode by
Yeah.
episode.
Which I feel in retrospect, it was short-lived because we picked the worst imaginable show to start it with.
I think that's possible, but I think the reason it stopped is because the next thing Rob wanted to do was the Joss Whedon show, The Nevers. Um, and I think both Carrie and I said, please don't make us do that.
I don't
What
even
the hell is
remember
that?
that.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never heard of that.
It
Um,
fizzled out
I know what it is.
immediately. Yeah.
Please share, Brian.
it was a show set in, I think it was Victorian England, where a bunch of women had randomly gotten superpowers. Very Joss Whedon.
I was going to say, male
Uh,
feminist Joss Whedon must have been very excited to tell that story.
And then it really got derailed because just before it started airing is when all the big Joss Whedon controversy broke.
Oh.
So then he
Yeah.
left the show at like the mid-season finale, and somebody else finished the first season, but then HBO never aired it. They sold it to like Tubi or something.
Oh.
Dear
Wow.
God. I feel like the
Yeah.
time is ripe for us to finally make good on that podcast.
I will
series.
so join that podcast.
I
Yeah,
actually would
honestly-
too.
Does know
That
that.
sounds
This sounds promising.
sounds weird.
Maybe
You know I love Joss Whedon, canceled or not.
I know.
You've also got a bunch of masochists on this panel here.
So many. So many. But
That's
it's
true. And-
But Brennan, we it's too early in the recording to start going on tangents. So Brennan, continue if you don't mind.
Anyway, I do think that is why a Worthy Binge stopped, because Carrie and I said, no, thank you. And there just wasn't anything else contemporary that was kind of hitting like that.
Sure.
I also briefly did a spin-off show called Take Two, where we would zoom in on a movie that was discussed on one of the main episodes. That was really fun. We were doing a lot of experimenting. But I really felt like Cinderella being swept up into this group of people. I had
Cleaning up our
stopped.
shit and feeding us when we couldn't feed ourselves.
Well, that too. I wasn't starstruck by Tim by that point because I had spent enough time interacting with him. We'd met in person, I think, in late 2017, 2018.
I think it
when
was
you were out in LA.
2019 when I was in LA.
Okay. Yeah. I remember it was a time when it would have been possible for you to purchase a Blu-ray of The Book of Henry because I watched you do
Because
that at
I
Amoeba.
did. I did do that. I still use that meeting as my go-to example of why Los Angeles is the worst place for people to live. Because when you and I met, when I was going to LA, I didn't have any sense of at all how this place was laid out. And I was like, well, I'm going to be in Burbank and why don't you come to Burbank? And you were like, that sounds good. And then by the time that you and I met, I realized that I'd basically committed you to driving like days out of your way to come meet me in Burbank. And the exact thing you used, because I the first thing I said when we met at this little cafe in Burbank was to apologize to you for taking you so far. And you said, oh, it's okay. I made really good time. I only had to drive for 70 minutes. And I was like, no human should be capable of formulating the thought, I only had to drive 70 minutes, as though that meant it wasn't an inconvenience. And I was like, LA is done to me. I will never return to this hellish place.
And this compelled you to buy the Book of Henry on DVD?
Well, that was a separate, unrelated thing.
Consolation
I
prize.
took him to Amoeba after we met up.
There we go.
But yeah, no, I mean, I just to strike fear into the hearts of any Californian listeners, I did used to commute for work from Long Beach to Universal City.
Oh my God.
And that was usually like a 2.5 hour drive. So 70 minutes, real good. And at that time I had a lot of time on my hands, man. But anyway, yeah, so it was just really cool. It was really cool to get to be involved with these people. I'd been listening to the show for a while. I'm really grateful. I have gotten to meet all three of you in person, always separately and always in LA, but I got to see everybody. And yeah, that was kind of my experience with the show. And now it's weird being kind of like one of the like the old veterans of alternate ending now. But yeah, I also want to hear everybody else's memories about the show and how you got involved and how that felt. And I think I'm going to start with you, Mandy. Tell me about your alternate ending experience as a listener, a reader, and as a co-host.
All right, so like you, I was an Antagony and Ecstasy reader back in the day, though I was kind of intermittent, and I can in fact tell you exactly how I discovered Antagony and Ecstasy. I was in grad school, sitting in my grad school office with a big pile of grad school work to do that I absolutely did not want to do. And so I was looking for things to do that were not my grad school work. And somehow, because of this, I ended up on Rotten Tomatoes looking at reviews of The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Okay.
And whatever little like snippet they had of Tim's review intrigued me, and so I clicked on it. And 2 hours later, I was still on Antagony and Ecstasy reading Tim's review of The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, which
Oh,
remains,
God.
which remains one of my favorite Tim works of art.
Thank you.
Um, but like I said, it was intermittent. Like I didn't follow the site. Just every so often, I was like, huh, that guy whose Hunchback reviews I really liked, what's he up to now? And I would kind of click back through and read a couple more. And then one day, Tim had suddenly migrated to alternate ending, and I was like, what is this? Who are these people? Who are these interlopers? I reject this. And so like I continued reading reviews, but I ignored the existence of the podcast and of Rob and Carrie generally for a while, especially when I was like, who is this person who has given these bad movies good ratings? That was Carrie most of the time. So okay, but occasionally it was Rob. I was a lot bitchier in my 20s. But I don't know. One day I was just kind of inspired to give the podcast a try. I think because I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to Tim, but I'm going to ignore what these other two people have to say. And then everybody was just so gosh darn likable that I ended up listening to all of them over and over and over. Until the point where like it became one of those podcasts that's your old friends. And I started commenting on the site rather than just lurking on it and kind of getting to know the other people who hung out in the Discus section. And then the Discord started. And now, like, alternate ending is one of my little communities at this point. Because that's really one of the beautiful things about it. And one of the things that I hope that, Rob would be the most proud to see at this point is just the close-knit little community that has popped up around it. Because like these people are my friends. I only know some of them online, but I've met some of them in the real world. But they're my real friends. Like some people in there that I consider myself close to. I've invited people to speak to my classes. I've gotten to hang out with some people. I got to hang out with Tim and Carrie in real life, and that was super duper cool. And we walked around the Wisconsin or the Madison Botanical Gardens and talked about Babylon 5 for like 2 hours.
I was just thinking of that conversation like 2 days ago, actually.
It was super great. And yes, so it's weird talking about what alternate ending has meant to me because it is so difficult to explain to anybody who isn't really on the inside. But it's just this weird little group of people who love movies and who talk to each other and who have a variety of different approaches to movies and movies that they love. But the thing that has always stood out about it is that it's always felt like hanging out with friends, even before I actually knew any of you. And then one day in like 2022-ish or something, it was after I'd had a baby. And so I was delirious and not convinced at first that this was not a hallucination. Rob reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to write for us? And I went, say what now? But of course I said yes, because I, like Brennan, had a moment of feeling like, the handsome prince had come by and all my dreams had come true. I'm still not entirely sure why it happened. I have some instincts, but I'm not 1,000% sure why I was one of the chosen. But I started writing the raspberry picking column. Then eventually you all decided you still liked me and gave me my own part of the podcast. When that became a thing that opened up, it's been a really great time. I love doing it. I love hanging out with you all. Yeah, I love me some alternate ending, and I have for quite a while now.
Well, thank you.
That's very sweet. I really appreciate you sharing all of that. And also like your stuff is so good. So Rob's instincts were really on point.
Indeed. Also, I think I was the first person to advocate for a paid tier of the Patreon for Brennan reviews, because basically as soon as Brennan started writing for the site, I was an instant Brennan fan.
Thank you so much.
And one of these days I'm going to want to reevaluate what we're doing with Patreon and possibly bringing back on that kind of thing if Brendan feels like he would want to. Obviously, that would be the contingency, but now you
Yeah.
know who to badger if you want to see that.
I will say, Brennan, like, not that you're not fun to torture, but Brennan's really fun to torture, it turns out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I need a moment to process that. So I'm gonna toss the conversation over to I think I'm gonna pick Cameron. I think we're gonna switch things up because I'm pretty sure, and you can tell me if I'm right, I'm pretty sure you actually knew Tim as a human before any of this started. So I'm curious what your story is and if it is different from ours considerably.
Sure. I would say some of it is different considerably. Yes, you're correct. I've known Tim since I was baby-faced 18-year-old college freshman. And I think I've said on the podcast before that my first like very clear memory of hanging out with Tim and realizing we had similar taste was the day George Harrison died. And I knew immediately to go directly to Tim's dorm room and found a group of people sitting there mourning the passing of George Harrison. Um, I don't know when exactly that was in the year. Obviously, we already knew each other before that, but so yeah, I have known Tim a long time at this point. Um, as all of you, I started reading not alternate ending, Antagony and Ecstasy. Um, basically,
You probably started reading when it was just like the link that I sent out to people I knew that I
yes.
was willing to let read my rambling bullshit.
Yeah, I feel like it was before it was called Antagony and Ecstasy. Is that
It
right?
was it was called Antagony and Ecstasy from the start. You might be
Okay.
remembering, and this is an even deeper cut. And don't go looking for this podcast land, friends, because it doesn't exist anymore. I had a blog where I was charting my cancer treatment, which
Yes,
might have
and I
been the
think
first thing
that
that I sent to you.
yeah, I think that is how I ended up, you're probably right, reading your movie reviews as well. And so that started primarily, let's see, I feel like your cancer treatment was when I was a senior in college.
It was
And
2005. I
yeah,
remember it distinctly.
oh, I'm sure you do. Yes. So I was a senior and then I graduated and I had a job at the school that I work at now before I went to grad school or anything. And that job consisted primarily of sitting at the front desk and I had a lot of time to read blogs. So I started reading his movie reviews at that point. And yeah, and I feel like I probably emailed you a bunch. I remember we used to email a lot
I mean, we were
before.
we were friends. We like talked to
Yeah,
each other.
right. But this was like before texting was a big
That's
medium
true.
of,
That's
yeah,
true.
this is bizarre. It like makes
We
me feel
probably
like
even
I'm
like called each
ancient.
other and heard each other's voices over the
Weird, right?
phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you have always been actually one of my phone call friends more than anything else. Anyway, so yeah, and then I knew Rob vaguely from the dorm as well. I did not know him well. I think that, back then people called him Big Bob, and I was a little intimidated by him. Like,
Wait, they did what
probably
now?
they called him Big Bob in the dorm because he was tall, I
He was
guess.
tall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I got there and people already called him that. I don't really he's a couple of years older than me. I don't really know why, other than he's tall. Um,
I think it was because he was tall.
yeah, he's not even that tall.
He
But
was well. I don't want to make this like an inside baseball thing, but there was an individual human who, if I were to say this person's name, you would start nodding and understanding Cameron.
okay, okay,
So
fair.
yes,
Perhaps compared to underfed Northwestern film students, he
Yes,
was tall.
yes, that is
yes,
sadly
Northwestern,
accurate.
where all of the undergrads are noted for their personal poverty.
No, 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 just
Hey,
the film students.
yeah. Uh, so he was not like a bad person for that I knew or anything. I didn't have antagonistic, haha, um, feelings towards him. So when you joined his podcast, I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. And then I felt like I had a real affinity with Carrie in a lot of ways. I've never met Carrie. But she and I are roughly the same age, and she sort of voices my inner child, I think, like as far as the movies that she really loves. And that gave me really warm, fuzzy feelings towards all three of you, and became a podcast that like Mandy said, I looked forward to because it felt like hanging out with friends. And that was, one of whom was actually a very good friend of mine. And then the others, like, it just felt like the camaraderie was tangible. And it became like one of the ones that I listened to the second it came out. So, yeah. And then Tim asked me to be part of it again. I don't really know why, but about a year ago. And that was very flattering. So, thanks. And now I know all of you.
And now to round out the horn, Brian, what is your alternate ending experience?
Well, like I guess basically everybody else on here, I first came to it through Antagony and Ecstasy and reading Tim's reviews. The first review I read, I actually just randomly came across on Google. When I watched for the first time in my life The Exorcist 2 and said, what the fuck did I just see? And I read some reviews of it just trying to process, and one of them was Tim's, and I liked it, but I didn't become a regular reader or anything. And then comes the now slightly horrifying story of how I actually did become a regular reader. And I do apologize because this is actually kind of horrifying in retrospect.
Okay.
But a guy who used to be a regular commentator on your blog, Brian Nemo, he linked on a message board we were both on to your Disney-a-thon. And I started reading that, and that's when I became a regular reader. And last I knew, he was in prison for child sex abuse material.
Oh, no.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how I found your blog, really.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
So now that we have the horrifying story out of the way,
well,
I mean, you couldn't have known.
I'm glad
no,
Brennan ended on you because now we have no way to clear the air after that. Good night, everybody.
Well, I will say,
that's the end of the anniversary too.
I think regardless of how you find it, I think that Disney-thon is one of the biggest funnels to get people to read Tim's reviews, and I think so is Summer of Blood. And I'm from the Summer of
Disney-thon
Blood
and
side
Summer
of
of
the
Blood are
family.
the two things that I have heard the most often.
And that's when I did. I started reading. I read through all of the Disney reviews, and it actually kind of rekindled my love of Disney that I had,
Oh,
that,
well, that's
frankly,
thank you.
Pocahontas had killed when I was a teenager.
Oh.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
It's like I think the only movies I had seen in between that were The Emperor's New Groove and Lilo and Stitch.
The two best Disney movies.
Yeah, I was going
Yeah.
to say, not the worst choices.
Which, yes, they were the good choices in there, but I did end up going back, and other than some of the last more recent ones, I have now seen the entire Disney canon. And as anybody who's been around alternate ending knows, I'm a big slasher movie fan, and the Summer of Bloods were right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I really became, a regular reader. And like everybody else on this, I followed you over to this weird alternate ending thing. And I wasn't a guy who really listened to podcasts at that point, like hardly ever. So I didn't at first. Just as like, okay, well, it's just a different website, same Tim, different website. And I don't even remember what one it was the first one I actually listened to, but it was like, oh, that was fun. That was really fun. Maybe I'll listen to another one. And pretty soon I'd listen to, all of them.
Yep.
And I was a regular commenter on the blog. And I joined the Discord. And I joined the Patreon. And I forced Tim to learn more about professional wrestling than he ever thought he would know.
I will say the last one you had me watch nailed it. I actually really loved it. So thank you.
Was that Beyond the Mat?
That was Beyond the Mat.
Yeah. Good movie. And then about, I don't know, 15 months ago, I got a message from Tim on Discord going, hey, can I run something by you? It might be easier in an email if you're comfortable giving me your email address. It's like, this is weird. But I said, yeah, here's my email address. Sent it off to him, and I got this like 8-paragraph breakdown of Tim's idea of how they were going to relaunch the podcast and would I be interested in being on it. And I went, link. Did I read that right? Reread it. Yes, I read that right. Okay. Really? And I said yes. And, well, here we are. And like Mandy said, I really have found the Discord to be a community. Found people to be friends with on there. I haven't met anybody in person because I never leave this little tiny area and nobody comes here because it's a little tiny area. But I've genuinely enjoyed being part of that community. I've enjoyed being on this podcast, and I've been a big fan of the podcast beforehand. And, I'm running out of things to say, so
Well,
I'm
I
going to send it back
appreciate
over to somebody else.
I feel like that's a couple of you now shouted out the Discord. I feel bad. I don't really spend time there because I like anything that I have to dual authenticate to get in is like an insurmountable moat
Yeah,
for me to get
such a
to.
pain.
But I do feel like a lot of people love the Discord, and I'm glad in its own way that I can have been part of the thing that got it going. Although, as I believe Mandy said, it really was Rob's thing, and that's going to be something. And I'm not going to try to make this a sad maudlin thing, but this site exists as a tribute to Rob in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
It is what it is because he wanted it to be this way. I would have been content to just kind of fart my thoughts out onto Blogger until Blogger decided to pull the plug and just like moved on with my life. It really is Rob is the one who made the site a site, who kind of gave me the keys to the site when the time came, and who was really it was very important to him that to have that community, and that's why the Discord is. So I do think it's worth just kind of reiterating that before we go any further. Like this is for Rob Jerzinski. This night and really every day that we have a podcast is a tribute to him. Um, I did want to, kind of now that we've shared our stories of how we came to the podcast, I did want to talk a little bit about the podcast itself. I mean, this is a 10th anniversary, so we're just going to be as self-congratulatory as we darn well want to be. The theme is that we're cool. That's our theme for the day. But I did want to talk a little bit about our own memories of the podcast, and specifically if anyone has particular favorites, particular moments that just really stand out to them as like what makes the podcast cool and worth listening to. And I would like to start with kind of a general observation, which I hope this is clear. It always was unclear to me, and Carrie and I had lots of conversations about it. I was always worried that the podcast was coming off as I was mocking Carrie, and I never felt that way about it. To me, the podcast always felt that Carrie was Harpo Marx and I was Groucho. I was the one who was giving a bunch of sarcastic one-liners and sex jokes. Carrie was just this kind of anarchic force. And Cameron, you kind of touched on this a little bit. Carrie had her own, has, Carrie's still with us. Carrie has her own very distinctive way that she likes movies. And it often caught me very flat-footed. And I loved that. I loved those moments where Carrie just kind of blew past whatever like thing I thought I was setting up and just kind of made me think on my feet and was that force of just chaos in my sort of very well-ordered formalist film critic brain. So all of my favorite moments from the podcast really are the ones where that happened, where Carrie and I just kind of got like tangled up in some weird thing. And I certainly I will say that my favorite thing that ever happened on the podcast, it's the thing that I go back and listen to. Brennan, I believe I forced our respective boyfriends to listen to this while we were eating ice cream once in Madison.
Yep.
Uh, there was an episode, and I don't remember what the episode was, unfortunately. I'd have to go back and find it. But we got to talking about sex ed. And
Oh God, yes, I remember this.
and Carrie was talking about her experience getting the talk. And uh and she said the verbatim phrase, she was sitting in the back seat while her sister was getting it in the front seat.
Oh my
And Brendan
God.
and I were on the air at this point, and we both snickered, and it was clear like, oh haha, she was getting in the front seat. And I couldn't like stop snickering. So Carrie went on and I went on, and at a certain point, like I wasn't going to be able to keep talking, so I had to explain the joke to her. And then I basically just like crumpled up. It is the most idiotic, stupid, falling apart laughter I've ever been on the website. And that to me was what Carrie brought. She brought that ability to just completely knock me off my axis. And I treasure that. That was all of my favorite memories of the show are moments like that when Carrie just kind of said something that immediately sent my head spinning and I felt like I had to catch back up with it. So what about
Yeah,
the rest
and
of you? Yeah, Brennan.
I was gonna say that because that's part of it. Carrie has such a untouched purity to her. She has this like Midwest innocence about her in a lot of the ways that she views the world. She's so optimistic, she's so positive. So when Tim's like incredibly sardonic, kind of misanthropic vibe collaborates with that, it creates such interesting and fun things.
Yes.
And that's the thing, because like I think I agree with Tim. I feel like it's the I think the balance worked really well because there was never any making fun of Carrie. That's not what was happening. Like Carrie is like exists in this world that is kind of fundamentally different from the one that Tim exists in, from the one that me as a listener certainly exists in. But it is an equally valid world, but it is one that is they are two worlds that are befuddling to each other. And that's also partially why I think the podcast works so well. Like Carrie was the casual moviegoer. She was bringing in that perspective of someone who likes movies, but to whom movies are not the entire world. They are not the be all end all of art and life and the reason to step out into the sun, essentially. Um, and yeah, so basically, I just I sorry, I got distracted. I was just reminiscing fondly in my own head. But yeah, I think Carrie's such a sharp storyteller.
Mm.
I think that, and that's one thing that I really miss. I miss the story times from the beginning of the podcast. That's not something we can replicate in the way that
Yeah.
we do it now. It's just I we have to let that be what it was. One of my favorite opening story times though is from Carrie. Is when she was talking to Tim about, I think she had gone to urgent care that morning before they recorded, and she was talking about like they were running through the list of like, okay, do you smoke, do you do drugs, what'd you eat today, whatever. And she was really embarrassed to talk about what she ate because she specifically said, and all I had to eat that day was so many eggs. um and it's just such a that phrase just stuck in my brain and is cemented to the back walls of my skull. um and I got to I'm very grateful I got to participate in several of those moments. Like I was there for the getting it in the front seat moment, which was great. I also, on the Take Two episode about Brokeback Mountain, I got to talk to Carrie. I got to teach her about gay cruising.
That is the only episode of any alternate ending podcast that my boyfriend has listened to, is the one where you explained why you can't use spit to have butt sex.
Oh, it's so good. And well, because she didn't know that I think it's Jake Gyllenhaal has sex with David Harbour's character in that movie because they like share a look and they walk off together. And I had to explain to her the look, and it was really special. There's a really good episode where Tim, Rob, Carrie, and there's a guy named Josh who was there. Was a college friend, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Pass the
I
Popcorn
had forgotten
episode.
he was on the show, so I can say Josh is the one who coined Big Ball.
Oh, hallelujah. I
Oh.
had to
That,
I
so,
assumed that's who it
there,
was,
there you
but
go. Yes.
there was another candidate in my brain too, so
Yes. Okay.
yeah.
But you were talking about So I Married an Axe Murderer and talking about the character of Head specifically, who I guess went to your college also or something. And there was just this excellent ping pong of Carrie being absolutely baffled by what the fuck head is and
Yeah,
not
I
hearing the
remember
word
this.
correctly. That's really good. But yeah, I mean, most of my favorite moments are from that. I mean, I love listening to the movie talk, and there's a lot of iconic moments there, but most of my favorites are from the story times. And I also really love, I don't remember what episode it was, but Rob told a story about going back to work in the office after COVID quarantine and having to pee in a Chicago parking garage. And that is, I will have to dig up what episode that's from, but that was an incredible like 5 minutes of my life getting to hear that for the first time. Anyway, those are my highlights.
Uh,
Yeah.
Mine are not dissimilar, but I do love that the witty repartee, let's say, between the three of you, but I do think that Tim and Carrie kind of represent the two extremes,
Rob
and
was the
therefore,
very
yeah,
necessary straight man. You
yes,
cannot
the
have a good
middleman.
comedy routine without a straight man.
Yeah,
And I will never, ever pretend that he wasn't because when Carrie and I were trying to do the podcast, just the two of us, we realized like this is not working. This is
it's
very
different.
bad. And in fact, I think it's when we reached out to you, Brennan, was like, we need a third person because if it's just the two of us, it's just going to basically be random nonsensical one-liners for 50
Oh,
minutes
I
that weren't
never
done.
thought it was bad. It was
Thank
just
you.
an illustration of what happens when an
Yeah.
unstoppable force meets an immovable
We
object.
we never enjoyed recording them, but anyways, yes, Cameron,
And there's
you were
no
starting.
gravitational force to keep you from just traveling eternally to the ends of the universe
True.
together.
Yeah. I think so. I re-listened to a couple of earlier podcasts from, let's say, 2021, 2022 today, and there are a lot of things that I had forgotten about in the last couple of years. And one of them, first of all, was the segment called Tim Sack, which I
Oh yeah.
miss. I feel like maybe worth bringing back.
Maybe.
And so, which was basically a question and answer session between somebody writing a question into the podcast email and Tim answering it for better or worse. And that was it. And it's a pun on Tim's genitals, and that's fun.
Yes.
And um, so I missed that. And I also had completely forgotten about the lack of transitions to ad breaks,
Hmm.
which always cracked me up when it happened because it would be Rob talking about, let's say, how, making fun of Carrie. Rob did make fun of Carrie, I will say, but that is a husband and wife thing he was allowed to. Making fun of Carrie for choosing Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade for the umpteenth time for some top 5 episode. And then without any change at all, it would jump to, hey, Carrie, you and I like to, keep ourselves in good shape and eat athletic greens
Eat a
or
lot of
whatever
egg
it
whites
was.
and cake.
Yeah. Like there was zero transition whatsoever. And like that was always like, oh, now this jarring, now we're in an ad break, but his voice sounds exactly the same. There's no little like dee 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 or anything that indicated an ad. So,
I forgot
um,
about the ad reads.
yeah,
The ad reads were always done when I wasn't there because I tried to ruin them. So I haven't
understandably.
They're
heard them
not
because
coming back.
I actually, this is as good an opportunity to point out, in case you haven't noticed it, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Alternate Ending podcast, we did kill ads this week. So you
Oh,
should be getting an ad-free experience of the website, but that's neither here nor there.
but we
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah. So those are just a couple of little things that, I appreciated a lot because Rob's vision for the podcast was so polished in general. Like he had the theme song all lined up and he had the fact that there were ads for a largely self-made podcast in general, like was great. But the fact that there was no transition there, I thought was a charming omission. Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, what about you? Do you have any particular favorite podcast memories?
Well, one just a recurring thing that I absolutely loved was every time be in the middle of a top 5 listen, Carrie would say to you something about how you forgot this one, but I know you love it. And she would say a movie you just utterly despise.
I know.
It
I
happened
know.
over and over.
She
And I
always
loved it.
sounded so sincere about it,
No,
too. Like she was genuinely surprised this was not on Tim's list.
That's why it made
Well,
such
that's
a
what made
great
her a
recurring
chaos in
bit.
because she knew. Because I'd asked her about it off air once. She of course knew. So like that was just her way of making me look like a giant dick on the air, and I love
It
that.
worked.
It did.
Totally worked.
But I wanted to read something I posted on the Discord, 3.5 years ago,
Oh wow.
because of just talking about Rob as the host. And I wrote, it feels funny saying this where Rob can read it, but I think it's worth mentioning from time to time that he's really good at this podcast host thing. Strong transitions, keeps the show relatively on track, mostly plays a straight man, but is occasionally a comedy assassin. Because Rob didn't make a lot of the jokes. That was mostly you and Carrie. God, he was funny when he did.
Mhm.
He'd just interject something out of nowhere and then go right back to, hey, let's actually do the podcast we're doing.
Right.
Yeah, and
The break when he left and we suddenly went from hour-long episodes to like 17-hour-long episodes was real.
I kind of already talked about one of my favorite memories on the last episode of a podcast I did with Mandy about you immediately recognizing Joel David Moore as the guy from The Hot and the Naughty, not, like the 5th most important character in Avatar.
But he's the most important character in the Hottie and the Naughty.
More important than Paris Hilton? Surely you jest.
I would say, well, in terms of getting it funded, no, but in terms of its narrative structure, yes.
I have not seen the movie, I must confess.
Well,
But
well,
that just blew my mind.
foreshadowing,
then, and it
you'll
still
have a
does.
plausible reason to soon.
So I've heard.
Yeah, thanks
So
a
I
lot,
have
Brian.
heard. All my fault.
It
but,
literally is.
but
Check
I
out
think
the
that-
April episode of Your Movie Rocks, everybody.
But I think my favorite moment of the podcast was I was on a bus headed to Chicago to go to a redacted.
Mhm.
And Tim started telling a story on this about making a plaster cast of his dick for his boyfriend. It's
That was a good one.
public
I
bus.
remember talking about that on the air. Holy shit, what was wrong
You
with me?
don't?
I
It was
don't.
so good.
To
We
it.
talked about this
You
at length.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
I'm going to tell the
No
story. I'm
pun
going to tell it
intended.
well.
It was very romantic.
Okay.
About having to put a cock ring on and a plaster cast, and I am sitting on a public bus.
Listening
on
with
my way-
headphones, I hope.
Oh God, yes.
Okay.
Thank God. But I'm just sitting there going, oh. Oh. Wow, this was not what I was expecting today.
No.
And Carrie is, as Carrie always was, this weird mix between embarrassed and deeply curious at the same time,
Oh, yeah.
which is one of the things I loved about Carrie whenever things got outside of her very pure, innocent bubble on the show. But the context, the timing of when I listened to the episode, and the topic, and Carrie's reactions, and Rob asking actual questions about it. Must have been
That's such an intellectual curiosity about it. It's true.
yeah.
This has been summer of 2021?
I want to say it was our second anniversary, so that would make it the summer of 2021. Yes.
Summer of 2021? Okay, yeah.
I
I
mean,
just remember listening to that and going, I believe that's when we started making jokes about doing alternate ending after dark.
No, certainly one of my things, I assume this was obvious. I would always try to figure out how far I could push sexual content before Carrie got like actually mad. And the answer was I never found that edge. Like she was just always very good at rolling with it. But I do remember an early episode, I think it was even from 2017. I think it was when we were talking about The Snowman, that awful Scandinavian serial killer movie, where I described to Carrie the sexual act known as snowballing. And that felt like that played well enough in my head that's kind of why I just kept doing that for the rest of time.
No, it's so good, and that's another thing that just we can't replicate. I've talked about this on Bride before, but it's
I
like
can't talk about gay sex with you, Brennan. It would just happen. It would just lie flat.
I know it would
Gay
just be a
sex would just happen.
conversation.
Like
Just
Brennan,
happen.
do you ever think of putting a man's dick in your mouth? I bet you don't.
No, I've never thought about it. It does happen from time to time, but yeah, no, it's just like it's hard for me to shock Tim, and it's hard for Tim to shock me. I think I'm maybe more embarrassed than Tim is, but that's
I clearly do not have boundaries, as Brian has kindly reminded us.
But yeah, that's another thing of like digging back into the archives. Absolutely worth it for that kind of material. Like I think we've made something hopefully really interesting with the show as it is now. But it's a fundamentally different show because it had to be.
Mhm.
So I'm really happy that what it was remained that way for so long. Like it was
Yeah.
it was really nice to have that bank of episodes to
For
continue to go back.
I also
Yeah,
have
we're not as funny as Carrie. None of
Carrie
us.
kept me on my
It's just
toes.
we're not.
I love you all very much. Carrie was a force of nature, is a
Mhm.
force of nature, and I wish her
Honestly.
all the best as she's continuing to rebuild.
Yeah.
But
I have no idea whether she will listen to this or ever hear this, but regardless, I hope that she knows how much we all loved her and her presence on the podcast.
oh yeah,
Absolutely.
So things that I have written down for podcast, there were so many times because I usually listen to the podcast on my way to work and I'm already driving on Florida highways.
Mhm.
And I would just be like, y'all can't do this to me. I'm gonna crash the car if you do that again. Never actually did, but there were a few times when I thought I was going to crack a rib in the driver's seat.
All right.
And wait,
One
are
of them
Florida
was the moment that Brian already described. Another of them was on, God, what top five episode was it? I think it was I want to say it was an old, it might have been like top five mismatched couples. It was something about couples. And Carrie told this because, like, in her own funny way, Carrie also didn't have boundaries. She told this very long anecdote about being on a fairly early date with Rob and discovering that she had, like, some kind of intestinal parasite while they were on this date. And Rob had to, like, help her collect a fecal sample or something like that.
I remember this.
And everybody just went with the flow. And I'm sitting here going, it's been 5 minutes and they're still talking about this. And somehow I am okay with that.
And this is, as Brennan said, we always had more fun doing the storytelling before we talked about movies, so we would lean into that kind of stuff
Yeah.
for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. And those were usually the times when I almost cracked a rib.
Mhm.
Though there were also things like Carrie putting the human centipede at the top of her so bad it's good movies list.
Yes.
Despite the fact that she apparently hated it.
Yes. Yes, she was not clear for that episode on the meaning of the word good, which is okay. That happened a fair bit where her understandings of words were a little bit different than everybody else's, and that's what made it great. What else do I have here? Oh, one of my favorite, like, my personal memories was that episode where I was on with Brennan and Carrie and we played Never Have I Ever about
Oh
movie stuff.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And it was like being at a little online slumber party with the two of you.
Oh.
I literally don't remember that. Unfortunately, it sounds great.
You should go back and listen to that episode. We had so much fun.
Yeah, no,
And I
it's just,
think
it's,
that might have also been the one where Carrie told a story about Rob ingesting too much of a substance while at a movie.
I do remember that. Okay.
Also caused me to nearly crack a rib during the recording.
Oh, sorry.
There were many moments when, leaning into the bit, Tim seemed like he was deeply offending Carrie with his movie opinions, but the one that I have written down is just the Lion King debacle, which went on for several months and kept coming back. And also the Amazon purchases.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I love those
What a
bits.
great old feature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you all would
Ah.
always irritate Gavin by identifying him as the religion PhD student, even though he
Yeah.
already had his PhD.
Yeah. Are we not all perpetual students of life?
It's very true.
Yeah.
But yes, the Amazon list.
I feel like in some ways, I don't know if this is true for everybody, but there's like you guys being normal in a podcast was a kind of a touchstone of the COVID pandemic for me. Like it was nice to listen to people being normal, even though it was normal over Zoom, as opposed to how it was when you guys did things in person. So like
Good.
those are the episodes that I listened to today, and I was like, oh, this was a moment in time, and I really kind of relied on the three of you,
Oh.
excuse me, to bring some lightness into the terrible movie year of 2020, first of all, and
Oh,
then
yeah. Bring some lightness into the other terrible things about 2020
Yes.
as well.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think podcasts especially were such an anchor for me during that time.
yeah,
Like alternate ending was less that for me because I was kind of part of the arena starting around that time, at least on the like Patreon bonuses and stuff. But I'm really glad that y'all kept the podcast going, in spite of the incredible technical hurdles that you had to jump over. And I think a lot of people would share similar sentiments.
Oh yeah. Well, we were all hurdling those technological hurdles together as a society. But I appreciate that. Thank you all very much. It's you've given me a walk down many memory lanes, including some that I feel like I had deliberately left gated. But
Well, as any longtime podcaster knows, the second you're done recording an episode, your brain flushes out everything that you said.
exactly.
So I think part of it's it's a natural defense mechanism, but part of it's just that process.
No, for sure. For sure. Well, we've spent a while now talking about ourselves and how great we are, and how great Carrie and Rob are, and how great I am. But I do want to take this moment to mention the other great people. First off, the rest of our podcasting family: Caleb, Zev, Gavin, Andrew, and our occasional friend Rianak, who has not been on the podcast recently, but who has appeared on a few episodes, and we were very, very glad to have her sentiments. And also, I want to thank all of our Patreons, all of the people who support the site, keep the lights on. Especially now that I, as I said, have turned off the ads. We rely on the Patreons more than ever these days. So I just want to thank all of you for supporting the show, for being patient with my occasional months-long delays in getting reviews written when I have promised otherwise. I'm pretty close to caught up right now. It's a very exciting time in my life as a review writer. I do want to mention a couple things related to the podcast. One, we do have a new podcast subscriber. Emob has upgraded to the screenwriter tier, which guarantees them the ability to have me talk about a movie on the air. So thank you very much, Emob, for joining the site. We do have, of course, all of our other subscribers who've been supporting the show in various ways, and that does include Kiri, our February supporter, who asked me to talk about a movie on the site. You might have noticed we did not have our movie roundtable. We just had too much other stuff to talk about, but I still want to make sure that I share with you all the movie that Kiri asked me to look at, which is a certain direct-to-video film from 2006, I believe, titled Barbie in the 12 Dancing Princesses, which which I will say I had certain expectations for what a film titled Barbie in the 12 Dancing Princesses was going to consist of, and I was wrong. I was just very, very wrong. So for one thing, so I guess I'd start by asking this question. Most of the people on this site are at least somewhat younger than me. Have any of you encountered the phenomenon of Barbie direct-to-video feature films?
I knew they
Yes.
existed, but I have not seen one.
There are 44,
Yeah.
and this
Oh,
is the ninth.
Yeah.
I've seen Barbie as Rapunzel, which my sister had, but that's it.
That is one of the ones that is older than Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses. So this is the ninth of 44 of these.
So were there like only 10 dancing princesses, or?
No, there were 12, but
Okay.
like so Barbie's not like a character. Barbie's playing a character, but also I feel like does Barbie have like a personality and an existence that would, it's not like Kermit playing Bob Cratchit in Muppet Christmas Carol. It's like Barbie's a
I-
doll. And I mean, is there Barbie lore? I guess is my first question, such that it makes sense to have Barbie playing the role of Genevieve, the, I believe, seventh or eighth eldest of the 12 sister princesses who dance in this special. Um, so it's based very, 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 very loosely on one of the Grimm fairy tales, the 12 Dancing Princesses, which is one I sort of remembered as the special was going on. That is about the moral imperative of policing women's free expression of their artistry and sexuality. This is, of course, the opposite of that, which is why I say it's a very loose adaptation. It is about how the 12 daughters of King Randolph just like to dance, and they have a good time. But he is concerned that since their mother passed away, their dancing is getting in the way of them being like appropriately behaved young ladies. So he decides to have his cousin or his wife's cousin, I wasn't entirely clear which, but his cousin Rowena, the lady Rowena, come and teach the 12 princesses how to be well behaved. And she's just awful. Rowena is just a nasty piece of work who wants to punish them for having any form of fun. So she basically forbids dancing and tries to train them in all of these like very arcane forms of court etiquette. But what the princesses have discovered is that their mother is apparently a good witch who left like a pocket universe that they can access by dancing correctly on a tiled floor. And so every night they go into this like magical glen that lives below their floor and dance and dance and dance. And then they get very tired the next day. And then Rowena gets very mad at them. And this is all going on while the Barbie princess, who again is not Barbie, she's Genevieve, voiced by Kelly Sheridan, has been crushing on the local cobbler who makes their dancing shoes. So they like let him in and he dances and they're all dancing and it's very cute and flirty. And eventually Rowena figures out what's going on and manages to stage a wizard's duel to kill the pocket universe, essentially. And they have like magic wands and all, and it's just a profoundly confusing story in a way that I found actually very, very compelling to follow. Uh, I will say Lady Rowena is voiced by the dearly departed Catherine O'Hara, which I did
Ah.
not realize until she opened her mouth, and I was like, oh, I guess this is what I'm doing to memorialize Catherine O'Hara now. Oops. I thought it was going to be a mighty wind, but I didn't get around to watching it yet. So
I
that
mean,
didn't
you don't
happen.
have to stop.
Well,
True.
but I
What
feel
is actually funny about that, though, is she picked that movie and gave a hint on the Discord that it was something Catherine O'Hara had voiced a villain in
oh,
before she died.
okay.
Oh.
And it was like, because, and it was like, huh, well, that worked out depressingly
Worked out
well.
depressingly well. So I will say this. I gave this movie 2 stars on Letterboxd, and I feel I left the implication that I found it kind of dull. It is certainly not dull. This is a very wonderfully warped, chaotic movie. I was not bored. Oh my Lord. I was gripping for dear life trying to figure out where the hell the story was going. It has like several motion capture ballet sequences set to the music of Felix Mendelssohn, and they're actually kind of like beautifully staged and very fluid because they're motion capture and like they're kind of very lovely dance interludes in this 83-minute Barbie fantasy special. So it's really a lot to kind of cope with. It is hideous. And that's really where it kind of where it fell down for me. This is direct to video 2006 CG animation. I would swear to Christ himself that this was using a video game motion engine to create the animation because the textures are very, very, very detailed. Like everyone's skin has like imperfections and modeling and like you can see pores, but like everything is flat and like their clothing has all these like little filigrees and whatnot, but like it's the clothing doesn't hang. It's just like been painted on their body. So like when they turn, the pattern in the clothing just kind of like rips with the way their body
Ugh.
turns. So it's this weird combination of like highly, highly detailed and really atrocious movement. And the hair in particular is just like everyone has like plastic balls for hair. Like there's no texturing at all, not even like painted on hair texture. So it's a really really wild experience that I would be lying if I said that I liked it as an animated film because I think the animation is just not at all up to snuff, but the experience was full of twists and turns and I was not remotely prepared. Even after I like clocked what story it was based on, it still is so weirdly different from the story, which of course has no wizard duel in it whatsoever. Uh, it actually reminded me specifically of Disney's Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, which came out the following year. And now I'm wondering, like, did Disney see this? Did they base the stepmother in that movie on Lady Rowena? And I kind of hope that they did. Because I
That's
would
one of the more worth watching Disney direct-to-video
it
sequels.
is at that, yes.
Low bar.
Very low bar, the lowest bar, but it is still like in my top four, probably. It is certainly better than Hunchback 2, let us say.
Okay, well,
Uh which I'm really trying. I've been hinting around that I want to force my boyfriend to watch Hunchback 2, and he is astonishingly not having any of that.
I thought you liked him.
This is my love language. As you of all
It's
people know in
it's
this
so
moment in
true.
time, Andy.
That is your love language. Yeah.
But
I do appreciate how good he is at setting boundaries, though. Like
no, no,
that's a
he's
really great
he
skill.
he believes that you should only watch good media. I don't get it. We're together anyways. But yeah, so not a movie I would have ever sought out. Probably not a movie I would have ever known existed, but a movie that has certainly changed me and I think changed me for the better. So thank you again, Kiri, for putting this in my path. I don't know where to go next. If I'm going to now watch 43 other Barbie movies, I might watch at least a couple.
You have
We'll
committed
see.
to so many marathons that you haven't even started at this
This
point.
this would be not systematic. This would be like as the mood takes me, I will watch a Barbie. But yes. So again, thank you Thank you to all of our Patreons for supporting us over the years. And you too can make me watch strange ephemera like this.
Sometimes it turns into an entire like site-wide phenomenon, like making you Tim watch zombies. So there you
That was a very special thing, and I remain very happy that that happened.
go. Me too.
But yeah,
It honestly has changed the trajectory of my life that we did that.
I feel like you've become a huge Milo Manheim stan, and I think that was
Yes,
important for you.
it was. It really was. Um, since we brought it up, I did get to meet him. We stage doored American Idiot when he was here at the Mark Taper Forum, and
Nice.
it was pretty cool. I got to hug Milo Man.
I am shocked that the
Yay.
security let that happen, but I'm glad for you.
No, it was great.
Did you tell
Anyway,
him how important his performance of the Two Josephs number in Journey to Bethlehem is? Because that's what I would
no,
have said.
no. I had to play it cool, you know.
Okay.
Anyway,
Because he
sorry.
probably
What are we
gets
doing on the
zombies
show?
all the time. He probably doesn't get Journey to Bethlehem nearly as often.
No,
That's what I
probably
would say.
not.
If
And I
I
would
had
say
Milo
for good reason.
Manheim clutched between my arms, unable to escape, I would start
Whisper into his
talking
ear,
about
yeah.
Journey to Bethlehem.
And
I
that is
just,
when security would step in.
yeah, exactly. I
This is
think,
why Tim expects security.
I think he's like the seventh most important thing about Journey to Bethlehem in terms of why you should watch that terrible, weird movie. He's definitely part of it. But I think about so many other numbers and so many other moments more than him. Oh, by the
I
way,
feel like I
oh,
think about his number second most after obviously Banderas's. Like that's a freebie, but
oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think about the. Sorry, we'll talk about the other stuff very soon. But I'm putting together the playlist for my wedding reception coming up, and one of the songs that I demanded Ben allow me to put on the playlist was the "Mary's
I
Getting
was
Married"
just gonna say,
number
was it
from
Mary? You're
Journey to
getting
Bethlehem.
married.
Yes.
All right.
Anyway, it's gonna be great. Anyway,
I require an invitation to your reception. I will leave as soon as that number is done.
we'll live stream it for you. We're keeping it very small because we are
Okay.
poor.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, yes, we're here to talk about other things. Tim, what are we doing
Yes.
next?
So we did want to talk a little bit. We've talked about ourselves, and we love talking about ourselves. But this is a movie podcast. We should talk about movies. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about. It's been 10 years, and the show, as we mentioned, started with the best movies of all time, and that seemed like a good reason to kind of talk about what's happened since January of 2016 when we fearlessly declared these are the best movies of all time. So just kind of, I wanted to kind of open up the floor to the last 10 years of cinema. A decade's a nice chunk of time to kind of reflect on how things have changed, evolved, gotten better, gotten, I think, a lot worse. But what do we all think? Like, what are sort of the trends you've seen in the last 10 years? The things that feel like a movie from 2026 is different from a movie in 2016 in this way. And let's start with you, Brian. How do you feel about the last 10 years of cinema?
One of the biggest things that's changed is streaming. It's like
Hmm.
streaming had started already by 2016, but we hadn't reached the point that we're at now where most smaller movies, most comedies, rom-coms never see a theater, or
Hmm.
maybe they play for a week at, 7 screens. And that's a big change in movies as we move more and more to only putting, blockbusters, or would be blockbusters at least, on screen. I think for some movies that really loses an important part of it. Like comedies play better
Hmm.
as a communal experience. I don't think that's a controversial take. I think that's a pretty well agreed on opinion that when two or three people start laughing, everybody else starts laughing, and the movie feels funnier regardless of whether or not it is. And I think we're losing a lot of that communal experience for anything that doesn't have, $100 million in CGI
Hmm.
explosions or $250 million in whatever the fuck that Snow White movie was.
It's been, I think, 5 years this month I still think about what we were robbed of by Barb and Star Go to Vista El Mar
Yeah.
not being in theaters. Because I would love to see that movie with an audience. But no, I
Yeah.
totally agree.
No,
And
I was thinking about this. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I was thinking about the same thing. Like I was looking through my list of the best and worst movies of like every year from 2016 through 2025. And a lot of these titles were on my worst list, but I was kind of reminiscing fondly about those low concept, like big box comedies that would come out in theaters pretty regularly. Like
Mhm.
I was seeing on my list like Dirty Grandpa. Like Why Him with Bryan Cranston. Like these are movies that got put out in theaters and made some amount of money. Um, and they weren't good, but we got them, and that was such a like it's not something I thought I would miss, but just like going out to the theater to see a comedy is not really something you can do anymore.
For real. And streaming, this is not new information, but like it was going to happen. It was clearly growing. The pandemic really just hyper accelerated that. And there's obviously so many reasons to feel like the years 2020 and 21 were a catastrophe. But in my tiny corner of the world, they kind of they dealt cinema a killing blow, I feel. And maybe is it dead? It's not dead, so we can't call it a killing blow. It was clearly very bad for the art form of cinema, especially as relates to like distribution.
Mm.
But,
I do think one interesting thing that happened because of the pandemic is that the release schedule kind of got scrambled.
mm,
Like there were specific types of movies that came out in specific months, and I think we're slightly coming back to what that is, but not entirely. Like the summer movie season was already starting to flatten. It was starting to like come out into May, but after the theaters reopened, things got really wet and wild and weird. Like they started releasing actual movies in January.
mhm,
Like you get, or at least like horror movies that they actually think are going to be good. Like Megan got released in January.
mm.
The 2022 Scream got released in January. So the idea of January as a dumping ground kind of went away because both spreading out the mid to big budget movies, but also just trying to put things out whenever the fuck they could.
Mhm.
It's like when is the soonest we can get this in theaters that people aren't going to be terrified to be sitting in a seat watching it? And I think that's something that's interesting, and I think that is still kind of stuck around, and also in the wake of the 2023 strikes too. So
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
know.
Well, you were saying about like the pandemic and movie releases and all. Movie that I know is very divisive amongst the alternate ending community that I kind of hate.
Don't
But
do this. You're
Tenet,
better than this.
but no, I'm not going to talk about the movie itself. I just want to talk about Tenet's release during the pandemic really killed the rest of that year
Mhm.
because it was like, okay, if Christopher Nolan can't make money at the box office right now, nothing can.
Hmm.
And it was months before
Mhm.
another movie of any note released. I remember the first movie I saw in a theater, and I think it was over 9 months. Was of all things the Spiral from the Book of Saw.
Ah,
And
I
at the
think yeah.
time, I absolutely loved it because fuck, I was in a movie theater again.
Yeah.
It's not very good.
yeah.
What was everybody's first movie back? Do you remember?
Mine was
Um,
Tenet. I had to take a
oh,
day
okay.
off to go see Tenet in a daytime screening when I would feel like there was no one else around. And it worked, because nobody wanted to see that. I mean, people did want to see that. Um, yeah, that was my first back, and then after that, it was a long time, and I don't know what it was.
I don't remember what like my first real movie back was, but I also had an infant, so I don't remember a lot of things from that period.
Sure.
It might have
Um,
been my first one in a theater. It might have been In the Heights, which was
oh.
2021, and that was like early summer, I think, release.
Yeah, I think it was June, or maybe I don't fucking know. But yeah, mine was in July of that year. It was The Boss Baby Family Business. Ben and I both really love the first Boss
Yeah.
Baby, which is like kind of a great movie.
No, the
Um,
Boss Babies are great, and anyone who says otherwise can go fuck themselves.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've I remember talking to you about this. But yeah, Boss Baby Family Business, less good than the Boss Baby, but still
But
pretty
still
good.
pretty damn good.
Yeah,
Still
and
pretty damn good.
we decided together like we want this to be the movie that welcomes us with open arms back to theaters. Do you remember yours, Tim?
Yes, I went to see the New Mutants as soon as I could. I was willing to die. I was willing to catch whatever upper respiratory disease was going to end my life because I was tired of being in my house. So I think the very first week that the theaters were like fully reopened in my area, I saw that, and then the following week I saw Tenet, and then they closed again, and that was that. Although
What a fun time.
we Rob again rented out a room so several of us could see Freaky, which I
Aw.
think was that same year. I think that was 2020.
Yeah, that was like October, November 2020.
Yeah, so I
Freaky
think that
got
was
real fucked by the
I
pandemic.
think that was probably the third movie that I saw in theaters because I don't think
That
I saw anything between Tenet and that.
that was the only movie I did that buy it at the like $30
Hmm.
thing that was going on with it because Freaky was like the top movie I wanted to see in the back half of the year. And I was like, I was sitting there debating like the week before it came out whether or not I was comfortable going to a theater. And then Michigan shut down all theaters again like 2 days before its release date. And I was like, oh, well, guess that's not
Hmm.
happening. That was the only one that I spent like the $30, and
Sure.
it's good. Not great, but good.
Yeah, that's fun.
Anyway, but yeah, cinema as a whole, I think I'm just gonna grab the wheel really quick. I think movies have gotten darker since 2016, and I mean that literally. They're turning off all the lights. I'm not happy about it. I think that's maybe a streaming thing also, but also maybe just people don't know what they're doing with like new cameras digitally. I don't know.
That's the thing. Like I've heard streaming brought up as a reason before. And it's like that should have the opposite effect because
Mhm.
movie screens are calibrated in theory, not always well. Like some you have 18-year-olds who don't know what the hell they're doing, screwing in bulbs incorrectly. But like your TV is something you're watching in a bright room, so like you have to have a
Yes.
brighter image. So I've never understood that as an excuse, and I've heard people say that. So it's not just you, Brennan. But like it's so weird to me because they are so dark.
That
Yeah, I
brings
don't
up
understand it either. I do think that it has something to do with newer video cameras, HD cameras, 4K cameras, etc., appearing to just be able to see everything. And
Mm.
maybe people just, it does cut down on a budget if you don't have to rent a bunch
Don't
of
have
lights
lights.
or, hire people who know how to put them up. So,
yeah,
yeah.
Very
that actually.
weirdly,
Oh,
like
go
the
ahead,
the
Mandy.
two exceptions that I can think of to this trend are like terrible PureFlix Christian movies, which are always blasted with school picture light, no
Mm.
matter
Mm.
what is going on.
Is that
And
better?
it's an exception, at least. It's
It is an
different.
exception. Yes, you're correct.
And the films of Neil Breen, in which I can always
uh,
see everything that
Ah,
is going on, whether I want to or not.
But
yes,
yeah, I this is actually a question I'd wanted to ask you before, Cameron.
Okay.
Because you have a background in cinematography, and you're the only person I know who has a background in cinematography.
Okay. Shoot.
How did they have such total darkness in the opening scene of The Godfather, yet I can see everything that's happening, and nobody can do that today?
I can't speak to why nobody can do that today. Um, Gordon Willis was a genius, is my broad answer.
Fair.
Uh, film film operates very differently than video does. And film works really well with highlights. So I feel like you can have a greater range of contrast, like a greater dynamic range in film. You can have blacker blacks, you can have whiter whites, and you can still get information in all of that. Um, than you can in video. Certainly, video works better in darkness. So maybe that is part of it too, where, if you need to expose for highlights rather than exposing for your darkness, your low lights. I don't know if that's a coherent answer, but I also would say that they were going for a look that had not a lot of, that was really how should I say this? They were going for a look that leaned into the darkness. Let's put it that way. And film blacks are more beautiful than video blacks. Yeah.
Okay, I have the solution then. Let's
And-
shoot things on film again.
Yeah,
You know,
amen.
why not? But no, he was nicknamed the Prince of Darkness because that was
Yes.
like his thing. Was he liked to really just plunge images in those beautiful velvety brown blacks.
70s blacks or something.
70s blacks are so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, what are some other broad scale thoughts we've had about the cinema of the last decade? Because
So
I
there are
think
a
you hit
couple
on one
of-
of my big ones. They're damn dark, but yeah.
There are a couple of abbreviations that I think sum up the last decade in cinema,
Mhm.
one of which consists of a letter and two numbers, one of which consists of three letters, and one of which I think I coined, consists of four letters.
Okay.
And in order, they are A24,
Mhm.
MCU,
Mhm.
and LARM, or LARM.
Live
What is
action
that
remake.
Disney
Live
Larm.
action
Oh,
remake.
Oh.
Disney live action remake.
I thought you were gonna say neon.
I
Okay.
I like larm as a word because you say it and it tastes bad in your mouth.
Yes.
And it
Does.
sounds bad.
It
And,
sounds
I-
like it's a parasite.
I visualize alarm and it's like a ochre green worm and it's disgusting and it's like oozing pus.
Sounds
And-
about
and-
right.
Did not the actual best of the Larms, Pete's Dragon, come out in 2016? Am I getting that right?
That is the correct year, yes.
Because I know that the Beauty and the Beast Larm came out in 2017. I remember going to see that with my old roommate, and we sat in the very back because we were being those assholes.
That movie
Um,
making $500 million in the United States alone was an end of civilization level event, I think.
Mhm.
Because
Yes,
it
that's
encouraged
fair.
them to keep making them.
Yes, and they have kept on making them.
Well,
Um,
I think part of this and part of the trend of the last 10 years has been that, with the writers' strikes and they already own this IP that's their
Mhm.
IP. They just don't feel the need because of the success of those to deal with stupid writers and, create original IP. It's actually something that I have really appreciated about 2025 was that there was a lot of celebrated original screenplays or screenplays based on something that is not a fairy tale. Yeah, that's
Indeed. I am taking the opportunity because I don't have to say nice things on this episode to say a lot of not nice things.
great.
Um,
Great.
Because I generally think that, like, while there are many A24 individual projects that I like a great deal, I do think that the A24ification of movies, and especially of the horror genre, has been a net negative for cinema as a whole.
Yeah,
And then,
elevated horror has killed my interest in horror. Like I know you
Yes.
were on my team with this one, Mandy. Every horror movie is about trauma, and I'm tired of it. I want horror movies to be about psychopaths with knives. That's all I want.
correct, yes.
Yes. We were just talking about this on your movie Rocks. You can make a grubby, nasty, violent little horror movie that has no purpose except to be a grubby, nasty, violent little horror movie.
It can even have
Please do.
themes if you want.
Mhm.
Themes aren't not allowed, but please just make it have your themes surrounded by psychopaths with
And
knives.
my example would be the director's cut of Halloween 2, which I know this is a safe place to talk about the director's cut of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. That is a movie that is very much about trauma. It is about the experience of trying to cope with trauma, but it's also a filthy souled exploitation grindhouse movie that happens to be about trauma.
Yes, it
And
doesn't-
why can't we do that?
Yeah, it doesn't scream trauma, trauma, trauma. It just shows these really fucked up people
hmm
whose lives were fucking ruined,
hmm
being fucked up, and oh shit, the psychopath with the knife is back.
Yep.
Like I
God,
know
I
that
love
I
that
do
movie.
I do like Zach Kreger's movies, both of them, a lot more than you do. But at the same time, I want him to learn better lessons from his own success than he seems to be learning. I want him to learn that the reason people like him is because he's one of the only working directors who knows how to do things with lights. And not because he's making profound statements.
Yeah.
I think he
Well, I
got
think-
away from that a little bit with Weapons, which was part of why I liked Weapons so much.
I think it actually might, in that case, be good that his next movie is a Resident Evil movie.
Honestly,
I'm
I'm kind of
really intrigued
excited.
by that
I'm kind
idea.
of excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he does with that.
And
Yeah,
like
no,
the
because
the MCU and also Star Wars to a certain extent kind of took over movies too in ways that were bad and dumb and tiresome for a lot of the last 10 years. But then Cameron, I completely agree with what you said that I feel like I want to end this little rant on a note of hope. I feel like we are maybe starting to experience a little bit of a pendulum swing because of the movies that I have seen in 2025. They are not all excellent. I can't think of much that I saw this year that I loved, but I saw a lot more this year that I was interested in
Mm.
Mhm.
than I have in the
yeah.
last several years. Like even recently, I've seen a lot of movies where I was like, I don't know that that was great, but that was more interesting than a lot of what I've seen going on. I really liked Bugonia, and I usually bounce hard off of Yorgos Lanthimos. So the very fact that I liked it and found it as interesting as I did intrigued me personally. But it was also, I don't know, it felt like a movie of the times that also has the potential to live beyond the
Mhm.
times. I thought that Eddington was very interesting. I didn't love one battle after another, but I thought that it was doing interesting things. So I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to become interested in the movies that are coming out in a way that I haven't been in a while. And I wonder if it is because just like the general artistic and public sentiments are starting to point away from all of the dreck that has filled our sewers.
I think you could be right. And I also think that it may be that it has just taken this much time post-pandemic for things to kind of maybe not even right themselves completely, but start to veer back to the way things were. Because I was looking like Brennan at my lists of movies that I even just saw in the last 10 years and thinking like, wow, 2017, 2018, 2019, I saw a lot of stuff that I really liked. And then it really fell off a cliff for me for 2 or 3 years there. And that, I don't want to blame everything on the pandemic, but it did have a huge effect on
We don't have
Mhm.
to
film
blame
industry.
everything on the pandemic. We can blame some of it on Jordan Peele, and we can blame some of it on Bob Iger, and we can blame.
Yeah.
And also the combination of the pandemic, the writer's strike, and the actor's strike, all
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
very close
Real
together,
close
resulted
together.
in a lot of thin years there.
Yeah, close
yeah,
together, but not simultaneous. So they just kept like giving body blows to the film industry.
yeah.
But
Um, but I
mentioning the go ahead, Tim.
no, I would say just to the point that Mandy and Cameron were making, the fact that Sinners made so much money at the domestic box office was very good. I don't love Sinners, but its success was necessary.
I love the
Hmm.
first half of
Agreed.
Sinners,
I concur. The first half of Sinners is a real movie, and the second half is kind of not. But
and I love
Yeah,
the Rocky Road to Dublin sequence. I love the first half and the
good
Rocky
God,
Road to
yes.
Dublin.
yes, agreed. Precisely agreed.
The music is spectacular in
Yeah.
that movie. But I did love Sinners, although the
Me
first
too.
half is definitely superior to the
Yeah.
second half. But
Even today, like I watched a movie on the plane home that I didn't really like, but that I keep thinking about in ways that interest me, and that was The History of Sound,
Hmm.
Hmm.
which did a great many things wrong, but then every so often it would do something so right where I was like, there's a sublime movie buried in here, trying to claw its way out. And it's a sublime movie that I don't know even would have been visible in a lot of similar projects over the last 10 years.
And oh yeah.
I was just gonna say about tying back into a couple of different things like the MCU and the pandemic. Yeah, how big of a bullet Disney dodged by having Endgame come out in 2019.
Oh my
Mm.
If those had been a year later and Infinity War came out in 2019 and Endgame had been scheduled for, May or whatever of 2020, you know what a disaster that would
Oh,
have
I had not thought
been.
of, yeah.
Anyway, that's just a thought that occurred to me going through there.
Yeah.
But yeah, while we're on the topic of the MCU, I think that part of that pendulum swing of things changing is that superhero movies, as they had been between 2016 and now, I think they're actually finally crashing and burning for the most part. Like you had that glorious promise at the end of Black Adam that Henry Cavill was going to come back as Superman that just instantly fell on its face. Um, I have I'm going to quote Meryl Streep. I have such doubt that this new iteration of the DC universe is going to go anywhere beyond another Superman movie.
Well, we know there's going
I
to be a Supergirl because it's coming out this year,
no,
but it's
I
it's
just
not
mean
going to do numbers, I don't
yeah, I
think.
just mean in terms of stuff that is successful and in terms of stuff that is like I think we're gonna get a couple David Corn Sweat superhero Superman movies probably, but is the Clayface movie gonna make money?
Why
I
is there a Clayface
I don't
movie
think
Of
so.
all the Batman villains, it's like they made Joker, and then it was like, okay, who's the next most iconic Batman villain? It's Clayface. It's like,
Clayface.
what
Is
are
this a
you?
real character you all are talking about? This isn't something you all
Yes,
just made up
absolutely
all
Yeah.
at
a
once?
real Bat. Actually, I think there are 3 or 4 different Clayfaces in the Batman comics,
There's at least two for sure.
but
I can't speak to that, but I just know that it's a movie that's coming out.
If you say
it
so.
is baffling that that is a movie, even if it never comes out. The fact that it ever went into pre-production is mind-boggling.
Hmm.
But and I know, Tim, you weren't nearly as big a fan of the new Superman movie as I was. I was so happy to see a movie about Superman made by somebody who likes Superman.
Hmm.
It's been a very long time. But those last few DCEU movies before that reboot,
I
The
haven't
Flash,
seen The Flash. I haven't seen Blue Beetle. I am not
Blue
in any
Beetle, Aquaman
particular.
2,
I do kind
Black
of want to see
Adam,
Aquaman 2 because I liked Aquaman 1 quite a lot, but
it's not nearly as good.
that's what I heard.
But
That's why I haven't pushed.
but no, but what I was going to get to is those last four movies collectively lost like $500 million.
Hmm.
Like I like people talk about how the MCU fell off a lot, and it has in box office. But the DCEU fell into a crater,
The
roughly the
DCEU
size of the Grand Canyon.
never achieved liftoff in the first place. Like it
Well, except
basically
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman
was a
made
hit.
huge amounts
Yeah.
of money for its budget.
Yeah.
But
But yeah.
that
But I do, to kind of build on this, I would say, the decline of superhero movies, I think, is obvious at this point. We'll see how Avengers Doomsday does. I can see that movie doing anything from crawls its way above 1 billion to touches Avatar level box office.
Yeah.
So we'll
I'm curious to
see.
see how the new Spider-Man does.
I'm
too.
curious how the new Spider-Man, although it will clearly not do as much as the last Spider-Man. Like it cannot.
can't.
It cannot. So like I'm sure it'll do plenty of money because Spider-Man sells. But like what I'm curious about is there's got to be something that fills the ecosystem, that spot in the ecosystem. Like what's going to be the big thing? The biggest film at the international box office this year for the first time in history was not an American film.
Right.
So that's the thing. The biggest American film was Utopia 2, but largely because of China. So if we kind of take China out of the picture, because China's its own industry, like it doesn't need the rest of the world really. The biggest film of the year was Minecraft, and it wasn't that big.
Yeah, even like Avatar Fire and Ash it's made money.
It's making money, but
but
it's
not making Avatar.
it's not
money.
making Avatar money, not even close to it. So like what happens in the absence of those big, huge ass? We'd had so many years in a row, notwithstanding the pandemic, of movies making $500 million in the US, $500 million in China, and then $500 million elsewhere. And we don't seem to be back there. And what does that mean? And this is not something that I think we can do more than speculate, but it does, I get curious about it because like I like the concept of big summer blockbusters. I like the idea of a cinema macro culture. So like what does that mean when we can't do things that are bigger than a Minecraft movie? And does that mean that video game movies are the next big thing? Does that mean that there isn't a next big thing and we're just going to have kind of a
I
bunch of
think
smaller movies?
I think what it means is at least the success of Zootopia and Minecraft and lots of other movies, K-pop Demon Hunters, etc., is that where the money is children's films
Mhm.
at the moment. And that uh, whether or not that is where studios are going to put their money, I don't really know. But it seems like millennium nostalgia and also children's films are kind of the places,
Sure.
Barbie making a ton of money.
Yeah.
Those are the
And I mean,
places that-
Lilo and Stitch, speaking of live action remakes, was actually very huge. And that's the confluence of children's movie and millennial nostalgia.
Right.
So, One thing I would like to, if I could just grab the conversation and shift it a little bit, because we're kind of talking about gloomy things. I would like to talk about something over the last 10 years that I think has been a positive thing, which is just so wildly out of character for me. I think it has been a golden age for action cinema.
Hmm.
I think we had the eruption of the John Wicks over the last 10 years, which triggered like a whole wave of stunt forward, and it kind of petered off. Like we're not there anymore, but for several years there, it felt like there was just this bouquet of really awesomely choreographed medium budget action cinema in a way that I think I would have counted myself lucky to have one film a year that had like really great action scenes, and it felt like I was getting five or six a year there for a little while, including, around like wrapping the pandemic.
Yeah, and I think we're also seeing another thing that is positive is that like international cinema is kind of behaving in a similar way, or it's exploding more often than it used to,
Hmm.
at least in the past 20 years. Like the critical and commercial success of something like Parasite or RRR or even Godzilla minus one, like there are more people are embracing that kind of thing. Like that's another positive.
Hmm.
But yes, sorry, not to if we want to keep talking about action cinema too,
No,
but
no, I
like
mean,
I just feel like
I just wanted to make a positive observation more than anything.
Yeah.
Also, anime films
Yes.
outside of
yeah,
Studio Ghibli have taken off in a big way
Hmm.
compared to just a few years ago. But also on the action movie thing, we also got the last several Mission Impossible movies
Hmm.
in this past decade, and which are the big stunt driven.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, the John Wick movies, even heck, that even managed to a little bit invade into the superhero genre for a bit with
Yeah.
Deadpool 2, which is got really good choreography in its fight scenes.
Hmm.
Whatever else you do or don't like about that
Oh,
movie.
it had very good fight sequences for sure.
Uh,
I'm going to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer about this because just like I don't like action movies that much, so
No,
this hasn't done any good for me.
no, that's
Um,
fair, but yeah,
but I'm glad
it's
it has
been
made
a
other
thing.
people
It's
happy.
been a thing.
And this does actually play a lot into my own theory of the last 10 years because I think that action cinema has probably, like, I haven't seen a lot of it, so I'm a little bit talking at my ass here. But I suspect that action cinema has been less susceptible than many other genres, and especially, for example, horror, to some of the broader social trends in movie making, where like movies forgot that they're supposed to be movies first and not purveyors of social messages and or box ticking exercises
Hmm.
for various people um or various studio executives who are trying to placate their younger staff um because that really was one of the big things that sat around like a lead balloon on a lot of cinema in the past 10 years. Nobody on this podcast has any problem with more diverse stories being told, but I think all of us would prefer that those diverse stories be good and not simply, to borrow a great phrase from one of Tim's reviews, equality in mediocrity.
I don't remember
yeah,
where I said that, but thank you.
Hidden Figures.
yeah.
You said it in
Yeah.
the Hidden Figures review.
Okay.
I've said before that I don't mind a movie that has a message in it. I dislike a message that happens to have a movie around it.
Agreed.
Hmm.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yep. I think as far as action films go too, not to be a nerd about this, but the lightweight nature of cameras these days
Hmm.
and the ability to just run as much footage as you need on a video camera probably helped with that in
That
some
makes a lot of
capacity.
sense.
Yeah. Strap a camera to the wing of a plane while Tom Cruise is dangling off of it. And
Hmm.
oh, if that camera dies, well, okay.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. That
Yeah.
makes a ton of sense.
Oh, wait, you know what? I will say here's a good thing about the last 10 years. In my opinion, the resurgence of VistaVision is kind of exciting.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The embrace of, and it's been a sort of a boutique thing, but the embrace of shooting on film has led to some very, very lovely films. And I think the VistaVision trend in particular has really worked out.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a handful of directors, but they're a handful of directors who can command
Mhm.
studios to do what they want, and that's
And
great.
And I'll also point out, and not that anyone is doing this, but The Brutalist was a scrappy little movie made
Hmm.
for pennies. That was in VistaVision, right? So like
Yeah.
it's not just Paul Thomas Anderson can do this because he's Paul Thomas Anderson. So
Yeah.
more The Brutalists is what I'm saying, which I like that movie a lot, probably more than anyone else in this podcast. But
I liked it a lot.
No, I
oh, there
liked
you
it a lot
oh,
too.
well, good.
I
Um,
liked not seeing it.
okay. Well,
Ditto.
well,
I do not think Brennan would
fine.
like it a lot.
No, I
No, I don't think so.
Well, you would like the Testament of Anne Lee, though.
Oh, so good.
I
I'm
need to
curious
see
about it.
that.
Yeah, I'm curious about that one.
Also,
Um,
at least partially shot in VistaVision.
Yeah.
oh. Yeah, as this conversation winds down, I just want to say, like, I was looking through those best and worst lists, and I feel like I don't necessarily agree with a lot of things that I have said over the past decade, in the moment. But there are two movies that have risen in my mind as like the good and bad movies of the past 10 years. The one that I really love, and this is very me, but what I think is the best movie for me of that period is the 2020 Emma, directed by Autumn
Mm.
Wilde. It stars Anya Taylor-Joy. I think that movie perfectly captures how fun it is to read a Jane Austen novel. It's very funny, but it's also like very sweet and very romantic.
Hmm.
And the absolute worst movie that I grit my teeth when I think about it is the Taraji P. Henson action vehicle Proud Mary.
Oh
A
God.
waste of time, a waste of her talents. It was top to bottom one of the worst movies ever, and it doesn't.
Like technically incompetent filmmaking.
It was
Yeah.
bad.
It does
I
not.
may
I don't
own that
think.
movie.
Wait, what was that?
I said I may own that movie.
We all own movies.
Just we talked about Tim buying the Book of Henry on Blu-ray
We
earlier.
sure did.
Um,
We sure did.
But I don't think that movie has really earned the reputation that it deserves. It's just like execrable garbage.
Does anyone else have a best and worst picks that they want to throw out
I
there?
certainly have a favorite and least favorite. I don't know if I'm
Please.
comfortable. Well, I'm definitely comfortable calling it worst, but I don't think I'm
Let's
going to
go
call
with
it
that.
best.
Favorites and least favorites.
Okay, so
that's what that
this
is for me, too.
so my favorite is a movie that I fully recognize that I overrate wildly and I don't care. The heart wants what it wants, and that is The Menu.
It's
Okay.
fine.
I have now watched it multiple times with the goal of I'm going to calm down about this movie now, and it doesn't work. Just, I don't know. I feel like this is one of those movies that I feel like everybody but me read wrong. It is not an Eat the Rich movie. It is about bullshit culture. And Anya Taylor-Joy's character. We are really having an Anya Taylor-Joy love fest right now, aren't we? Anya Taylor-Joy's patron saint of everyone who has ever, and anybody who's ever been in academia has had this experience. The patron saint of anyone who has ever sat in a room full of people nodding enthusiastically and felt like they'd had a stroke or completely lost their mind. Yes, so I love The Menu a lot. It is a movie that I will revisit frequently.
And I feel like the
Also,
fact
I
that
got to see I got to see it all by myself in a completely empty
Oh,
movie
nice.
theater, which is one of my favorite ways to watch a movie. The worst movie of the last 10 years was Star Trek Section 31.
I'm going to be watching that before the end of this calendar year, and I'm really not looking forward to it.
You should not be looking forward to it. It is especially if you have any love in your heart for Star Trek at all, it is a painful, wretched experience in every possible way, including some ways that it made up all on its own.
Okay. Brendan,
Star Trek has hurt me so many times at this point.
yes.
Yeah,
But-
you keep coming back.
Yeah, were you going to say something about that, Brendan?
I was just gonna say, like, because The Menu is a little bit of it's part of that kind of message movie wave. So the fact that it is one of your favorite movies of that period speaks to the fact that it has other things going on in it, and
That's the
they're very
thing,
good.
is it's exactly what Brian said, where it is a message, and again, a message that I think everybody gets wrong, but it is a movie first, and it is so snappy and stylish as a movie, and Ralph Fiennes is doing such delightful things for every second he is on screen. And Nicholas Hoult,
Oh,
who
yeah.
I did not peg as becoming one of my favorite people in the
Yeah.
past 10 years.
Totally.
But he is also doing just wonderful things every second that he is on screen. And like Hong Chow as well. I love
Oh,
just
God,
like
yeah.
there's so many people that I love and images that I love happening all across the menu. And like It's a warm blanket that is set on fire with marshmallows.
Okay. What about you, Cameron? Do you have favorites, least favorites?
I least favorites is really hard for me. I like a lot of movies, at least marginally. So I can't really pick a least favorite. Similarly, it's hard for me to pick a favorite. There are a few that I wanted to call out that I feel like don't get talked about very
Please.
often. Um, one of which is a documentary about an ascent of El Capitan in Yosemite, not Free Solo.
Okay, because I was like, Free Solo is not
Yeah,
a movie
no,
that I
that's
love.
pretty well known. Came out the same year, I believe, as Free Solo. It's called The Dawn Wall, and it's about a different
Oh yeah.
face of El Capitan, and it's a very different story. I thought it was a really great movie, and it's just worth checking out. I am by no means a rock climber, um, but I was dating one at the time, and so we went and saw this movie at
Hmm,
this weird special screening, and um, it was really good. So check that out. Um, and the other two that I feel like just don't get their due very often is I, Tonya and The Farewell, both
hmm.
from, oh no, they're different years. I'm sorry. I, Tonya is 2017 and The Farewell is 2019. And
I,
uh,
Tanya is so great.
I loved that movie so much. And like they just kind of fell by the wayside as far as conversations. I'm not like a huge Aquafina fan, but she's the lead character in The Farewell, and I think that the director, who's I'm forgetting who directed it, uh, did a lot of interesting things with framing, and it's a very like small, poignant movie that is also funny and is just worth seeing. So I just wanted to call out those. I cannot pick a favorite movie of the last 10
Sure.
years. It may be the favorite, which is kind of
Yeah.
an adorable pun,
That's a
but
great, great movie.
yeah. Oh, and the other one was a Netflix movie, the Randall Park Always Be My Baby, which is just endlessly delightful. Just to, you know, throw Netflix some kudos there.
Sure. We
Yeah,
we owe it to Netflix. We've said
sure.
some mean things about them.
They've made some interesting things
Yeah.
recently, so yeah,
Yeah. How about you,
that's all.
Brian?
The movie that I thought was my favorite this last decade, I just realized actually came out in 2015.
Mm.
That's tough.
Yes.
So, and I don't know that I'd say it was my absolute favorite of this past decade, but the movie that comes to mind, partly because there's these moments in it that left me with my jaw just hanging open in the theater, was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Mm,
Mhm.
There's a moment where Miles and Gwen are hanging upside down on a building, and you see the
hmm
entire New York landscape that I think might be the single greatest moment of computer generated animation I've ever seen. And one of the few things that makes me think the move to CGI wasn't all bad,
hmm
as much as I miss hand drawn animation.
Mhm.
And then I've seen some terrible movies this last decade. Something like Materialist last year is a movie I absolutely abhorred.
I will be avoiding that as long as it is humanly possible for me to do so.
But I think there's a difference between worst and least favorite. And the movie that most made me feel like I wasted a massive amount of my time watching, and I apologize before I say this, Tim,
That's okay.
was Avatar: The Way of Water.
That's okay.
That is the most boring ass 3 hours I have spent watching a movie this decade. I fucking hate that movie. I still
And
give it 2.5 stars because the technical merits are just like the quality of the CGI and the on a technical level, it's a flawless film. I just wish it had, characters, story,
see, this my thing is
interesting action scene instead of that boring ass last hour where nothing interesting happened.
my feeling
Oh, I
is
hated that
once
movie.
once people embrace that movies need to have neither characters nor story, like I've embraced, you'll just have
God.
so many more things you can enjoy
Yeah,
watching.
but the action scenes saved the first
I
Avatar.
I like the
That
actions.
last big action climax of Avatar literally saved that movie for me. I didn't find the last action sequences in the fight on the boat or submarine or whatever the hell that thing was. I found it boring as hell.
Please don't see the newer one then, because
Oh, I haven't.
Uh,
I might someday at home. There is no way in hell I'm spending.
Yeah, no, if you don't like Way of Water, you will certainly
yeah,
not
you're
like
not
Fire
gonna
and Ash.
like, yeah.
I would not say that I would like to answer my favorite and least favorite or best and worst. Because that would require me talking about either Tsai Ming-Lang's Days or Apichatpong Weerasethken's Memoria, which I'm not going to. But they're both great, but they're super boring and pretentious. I am instead going to say the movie from the last 10 years that gave me the most hope and the most pessimism
Mm.
for the state of cinema. So hope, I'm going to go back to those beautiful days of 2019 when we didn't realize that the world was about to shut down. I think it was a great year for movies. I think 2019 was just richness upon richness. And it wasn't my number one of the year, but I do think it's the film that I have clung to the most from that year as proof that we can still make great movies. Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Yes.
Oh.
oh,
Amen.
I
Which
thought you
I
were
s-
gonna say Cats.
I was wondering about cats
You know,
too.
this is not the time for ironic love, even though my love for cats is deep and passionate and robust. It's the film I've seen the most from 2019 for sure. But no,
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Portrait of a Lady
Portrait
on
of a Lady
Fire.
on Fire is I watched it and I was like, oh shit, we can still make like peak European art cinema. We still have that toolkit. Just every shot is perfect. The performances are just so finely tuned, and then it ends on that insanely good long static take that just like lets all the storytelling happen because it's duration, and we like have to pull it out. And I was so jazzed up by that movie, and so I saw this and I was like, so that we can still do this. There's still someone out there still wants movies to be this thing. And she did a really, really fucking good job of making this thing.
So good. I saw it on Valentine's Day.
Oh man.
Oh,
Oh man. Perfect Valentine's Day movie if
It
you want your
is.
Valentine's Days to be really sad.
sad and horny. Like,
Sad and horny.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna flip it around. The movie of the last 10 years that has made me the least hopeful, that has made me feel like cinema is dead and dying and good riddance to its rotting carcass. I talk about Larms, talk about The Lion King.
Oh,
The
God.
live action, in quotes, Lion King is a film so bereft of art in any way, so bereft of genuine emotions in any way. Everything about it is reheated, frozen burrito swill, ugly movie, inexpressive movie, a movie that takes everything that is pleasurable about the original Lion King and just like murders it with these awful rickety CGI animal rigs. And it made a just gigantic shit ton of money. And so there will just keep being it and its wretched little children for years and years to come.
Yeah.
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 No, that movie's terrible. You're completely right. There's no way to add to what you said.
Nobody can argue with that. Yeah.
I wasn't looking for counter
This is
arguments.
where we miss Carrie.
I
This is where we miss
I don't
Carrie.
even think Carrie was going to go to bat for the 2019 Lion King. But
Didn't she? I feel like you all fought
very,
over it.
not very hard. She gave it 3 stars. That's for Carrie a bad rating. So we are not going to talk about alternate endings. We have gone really long.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna take us to the outro.
That's fair.
All right. Well, thank you all for sticking around for so long, for talking with me about this. Thank you all for listening. Hope this has been a fun trip down memory lane. Before I let all of you go, I just do want to offer everyone an opportunity to, as we always do, share where we can find you on the internet, what you've been working on lately. Cameron, how about yourself?
Well, as in the last few months, my Babysitters Club podcast is kind of slowly trickling out episodes at the moment. So, if you're interested in 3 millennials revisiting the Babysitters Club novels, you can find us anywhere that podcasts are found at. It's called Stony Brook Reunion, the Babysitters Club Book Club. So that is really the only place to find me other than Letterboxd, where I'm making a concerted effort to actually log everything. So
Very nice. Very nice.
Yep.
Brian, how about you? Anything going on?
Just you can find me on Letterboxd. That's about all I got right now. And a kitten.
And you got a kitten. That's a very
yeah.
your kitten has been paying company with us this whole recording. It's very nice.
Well, he took a nice nap.
Oh, Mandy, how about
Woke up and wild.
Mandy, how about you?
Mostly you can find me on Alternate Ending, writing stuff and making voice words as well, and on Letterboxd. And do I do anything else with my life? Oh, I did.
You teach the future generations, Mandy.
Sometimes, yes. I did a Star Trek Enterprise podcast.
Oh,
If any of you, like Tim, are out there
I
watching
called
Star
this
Trek
I called
Enterprise.
this out on the trivia night we did last
Yes.
week. I have been listening to your podcast. It is the first time I have ever listened to a podcast.
Aw.
So thank you. And the second time I listen to a podcast will be your Babysitters Club thing, Cameron.
I mean, you've been on my Babysitters Club thing, so it's a long time coming, Tim.
But
It is.
It's fine.
But yes, so I have been relying on you to validate or sometimes not validate my opinions on Star Trek.
Fabulous. It would be boring if we agreed all
Exactly.
the time.
Exactly.
But
Well,
yes, I did a Star Trek Enterprise podcast. So it's called At Least There's a Dog. You can find it wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.
And Brennan, how about you? What have you been working on these days?
Okay, well, yeah, you can find me on Letterboxd. Also, that's under my name. Look at how it's spelled in the show notes or on the website or whatever. You can find me on Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, blah blah blah. At It's Raining Brens. I am really tearing through my long-running project where I'm trying to watch and review every slasher movie from the 1980s. I recently did an audit of my list and added like 50 titles, and that was very devastating to me. So I'm really trying to crank through a lot of the titles I need to catch up on, and I'm also still kind of in the middle of 1986, and I'll push forward on that. But yeah, I've been writing a lot of reviews of really wild, obscure slashers. Recently, a giallo comedy called The Nosy One, among other movies. But yeah, yeah, you can check that out. I share that on all of my socials, and you can find it through that. Tim, how about you?
Well, again, I'm Tim Brayton. I'm the host and co-owner and whatnot of this whole shebang. Thank you all for listening. As always, you can find me on Letterboxd. I'm trying to be better about writing reviews for the website as well, so hopefully you'll be able to start seeing me there more reliably. And of course, I host this here podcast as well as the other here podcast that you'll be able to listen to next week when Brennan and I talk about a horror film that is a skeleton in the closet of one of the current Oscar nominees. That is part of our Bride of Alternate Ending podcast series. But again, thank you all for listening. Thank you for these 10 years of being such a wonderful audience. We appreciate it very much. We will catch you next time. Bye, everybody.